So last weekend, I went out and saw a movie that I had no idea was even coming out, and also had no idea if it was even going to be good. And that movie was Alien Romulus. Again, I had no idea this movie was coming out. For an hour and 59 minutes, I found myself just enjoying the ride. It was action-packed, uncomfortable, and tense. It brought an element of horror back to a franchise that I don't feel like has had very much horror in it for quite some time. Fede Alvarez, probably said that name wrong, directed Don't Breathe, also a very uncomfortable movie, and 2013's Evil Dead. He is the one that directed this movie. He became motivated to make this movie when he was filming Don't Breathe, because while he was directing that, he was also playing Alien Isolation. Hilarious. And he thought of how terrifying the world of Alien is if it's brought back to like the bare essentials, essentially. And then further inspiration for the film came from a deleted scene from Aliens where you see children running through like one of the hallways of the colony or something, and he was thinking about what it would be like if those kids, like how those kids' lives would have turned out and what they would be like when they grew up. Ridley Scott is still a part of this film, even though he did not direct it, but he serves as a producer on this film and gave Alvarez some notes when he saw the film. Cailee Spaeny is Rain. Also, I'm gonna butcher these names, so please don't. I say this every time. I'm gonna butcher the names. I can't say names correctly, so this also happens in my daily life. Never say anyone's names right. Anyways, I love talking about horror and then being terrified. My door just opened on its own. Granted, I did not lock it and the AC just kicked on, but it still scared the daylights out of me. David Jonsson is Andy. Archie Renaux is Tyler. Isabela Merced is Kay. Spike Fearn is Jorn. And Aileen Wu is Navarro. Alvarez sought out the original practical effects people from the original Aliens movie in order to help him on this film, which you can really see in every portion of this film, that it's just... you can see the practical effects on every part of this film. All right, so that was how the film started to be made, how it was made, inspiration for it, and everything. Now I'm going to go into the nitty-gritty of the story of the film, so there are going to be spoilers ahead. Alien Romulus is set between Alien 1979 and its sequel Aliens. The film opens with a space probe investigating a wreckage, which turns out to be the Nostromo from Alien. They collect an object, which turns out to be a xenomorph. Then we hop into the actual characters. We see Rain. She works with her adoptive brother Andy, who is a synthetic human in a colony. After her contract is forcibly extended when she is trying to leave by the company, by Wayland Yutani, she joins up with her friends and ex-boyfriend, which when I was doing research, I found out that he was the ex-boyfriend, and there was kind of some hints in the film that he was her ex-boyfriend, but honestly, there wasn't enough time and there wasn't enough scenes with just the two of them for it to be really clear that he was her ex-boyfriend. But like, you could tell that there was something. I just kind of assumed that it was more so like they had a crush on each other or something, but ex-boyfriend. But they're going on an expedition to a spacecraft that is abandoned and has cryostasis chambers, which will allow them to go to a different planet. We also learned that Kay is pregnant, and while she doesn't admit who the father is, Jorn seems very concerned about her, which is funny because apparently he's also dating Navarro, which again, there's not enough time spent on the other characters outside of Rain. So I found all of this out while I was researching, which I found very interesting and kind of weird. Like, why were Kane and Jorn like a one-night stand? Does Navarro know? What's the story there? It's a little weird, a little strange. Anyways, the ship turns out to be a research station. Dun, 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 dun. We see a totally not ominous painting of of a baby feeding on its dead mother's breast. And there's a couple other images hinting to like Greek mythology of Romulus and Remus, etc., which is what the ship is named after. Tyler, Bjorn, and Andy discover the skeletal remains of a xenomorph, which I thought so and then was confirmed, but it's the same xenomorph that Ripley harpooned from the very first Alien. While retrieving stasis chambers, the room that they are in locks down and it immediately starts to heat up, and we discover that there are face huggers in there with them who are slowly also being woken up. This scene is so incredibly intense and spectacular. There's a score that goes with it that is titled like they're in the water, and it's just such an intense scene. Like, oh, I love it. It's a really good starter scene for the horror that's about to come. They did a very excellent job. Rain and Navarro go flying down to where they are. Rain takes the chip from another synthetic human that they had found that was broken apart and damaged, and she takes the chip and they install it into Andy to override the lockdown that has them stuck in a room. During the escape, though, from the chamber, one of the face huggers smashes through and attaches itself to Navarro. Rain reactivates Rook, who is the other synthetic human that was damaged that they stole a chip from, and some very terrible CGI happens because it is the same actor, or it's a model of the same actor from the first Alien, but the CGI is pretty terrible. I will approach it. I'll talk about it more in depth later, but it's a little distracting, but we'll continue on to it with the story. The broken android reveals that the xenomorph killed the entire crew and warns that even if they do manage to remove the facehugger from Navarro, it's unknown if it's already completed its purpose. Meanwhile, the chip from the damaged android that is currently in Andy is overriding his programming, and a new directive is now installed into him. And it is pure loyalty to the company. Because of this, Andy tries to kill Navarro, which obviously causes all the human companions to go, what the hell? And Bjorn takes Navarro and runs away with her. And he runs to their ship, leaving behind Tyler and Rain because Tyler can't leave Rain's side. And Andy is her brother, and she's trying to figure out what the hell's happening with her brother. Honestly, was not expecting that. Like, I was expecting Andy's directive to be overridden. Was not expecting Tyler's own friend ditching him. Actually hilarious. But anyways, so Bjorn and Navarro make it onto their ship, and they start to ready the ship to be able to depart from the abandoned one and leave. Kay, who was for some reason sleeping the whole time, I don't understand that part. I mean, I know she's pregnant, but like, really? But it turns out that the facehugger was done doing its duty, and a chest burster explodes from Navarro in front of Kay and Bjorn. This causes the ship that they were trying to escape in to crash back into the Romulus hangar, and the resulting crash, it causes the abandoned ship's orbit to fall off balance. And so now they are incredibly close, aka 30 minutes away from the planet that they're trying to escape from. They're 30 minutes from crashing into the rings of that planet. And fun fact, when it says 30 minutes, the movie actually takes it. Everything that's about to happen is in 30 minutes before the crash. So I thought that was pretty cool. Kay and Bjorn discover the xenomorph gestating, and Bjorn attempts to kill it, but he gets burned alive by its acid blood, which was an yikes kind of scene, honestly. I mean, like, I knew that the xenomorph had acid blood, but I haven't seen any of the other Alien movies, so I don't know if other people have been killed by the acid blood, but like, witnessing that was very low-key disgusting. Rain, Tyler, and Andy must navigate a bay that is absolutely full with fake face huggers in order to get to the Romulus hangar where the ship crashed into. It's a incredibly tense scene that's actually really interesting at them having to be as quiet as possible as they're walking through around all these face huggers. But there is a flaw in this scene. For some reason, Tyler is an extra dum-dum and decides to answer Kay's freaking radio call in the middle of this in the middle of this room. He doesn't shut it up. He doesn't throw it off to the side. He just starts talking to Kay. And also, it takes the face huggers way too freaking long to react. It's a great scene. Like, it starts off as a pretty great scene, and then it turns into kind of really stupid and pointless because Tyler, what are you doing? It makes no sense, honestly. That part really pissed me off. Kay is trapped in the bay with the xenomorph, and it's stalking her. Andy, Tyler, and Rain manage to get to the door, but it is locked, and Andy is the only one that can open it, but he refuses to open it because he says that that's what the xenomorph wants. And Kay is screaming and crying, and Tyler and Rain watch as she gets impaled and then dragged away by the xenomorph. And then obviously Rain is just staring at Andy, having no idea what the hell is going on. Andy then takes Tyler and Rain to a room where the scientists were conducting experiment, and it turns out that they have been taking samples from xenomorphs and injecting rats with them, trying to create something that is akin to the perfect species. It is called Prometheus fire, and it is intended to perfect humans. They take the samples and the rifles, though they are warned to not use the rifles because the xenomorph's blood is acid. As they are leaving the room, you see that the Prometheus fire didn't actually improve the rat that was injected with it. The rat just eventually turned into a miniature xenomorph from the inside before dying. So that's not ominous at all. As they are walking though, they hear cries, and Rain and Tyler run down this very sketchy, creepy looking hallway and find Kay wrapped up in whatever kind of goo the xenomorphs attached her to the wall with. But it is discovered that there's a dozen xenomorphs inside of this wall, and Tyler gets killed. Also, there's a dozen freaking xenomorphs inside of this shit. Run. Andy gets knocked out, and Kay is incredibly injured from being stabbed and attacked by the xenomorph. And Rain, for some reason, can't leave her synthetic brother behind, which I get it. She's attached to him, but also I don't know, I get it, but also there's a dozen freaking xenomorphs. I don't think it's a good idea to go back into their hive to get your synthetic brother. Everyone else is dead. Take the one living girl and get on the ship and get out, especially because she has a baby. But instead, Rain leaves Kay alone with the samples and runs to go get Andy, and Kay, who is a fucking idiot, decides to inject herself with this sample. Granted, she doesn't know anything about these samples or whatever, but you're an idiot. And I get that she's mother's instinct, wanting to survive and pretend so that way her unborn child can be okay or some shit. I don't know, but what are you doing? It's not gonna turn out well. Anyways, she injects herself. Rain removes the control chip from Andy, and they make it, and there's a whole dramatic scene of them running away from the dozen xenomorphs and some tricks, and she does shoot the xenomorphs, but the gravity thing is off, so the blood doesn't burn through the ships right away. There's a callback scene to to Ripley and an alien and a xenomorph. Pretty good scene, pretty intense, very good puppetry, with the xenomorphs. They look very uncomfortable and terrifying. But yeah, and Rook also calls a line back from the very first movie, which is so sorry about this, but your chances don't look good. Bye. They make it back to their ship just as the Romulus Remus station crashes into the ring. Just as they are preparing to go into cryostasis and everything, Kay starts to go into labor, and then she gives birth to a disgusting egg, and it turns out to be a human hybrid called the Offspring, and it is disgustingly terrifying. When this scene was happening in theaters, me and my friend were literally just because the birthing scene was disgusting and terrifying and uncomfortable. The hybrid kills Kay and kills Andy. Rain manages to fend off the Offspring long enough for him to fall himself into the rings. Rain puts herself and the basically dead Andy into chambers before entering stasis, and she sets the chart to hopefully go to planet Yavaga, but is left ambiguous as to if they're actually ever going to get there. So that was the film. So now let's dive into some of my thoughts. There's some fun details from this film, don't get me wrong. It was shot chronologically, which is actually really cool, and I like how that helps build up the characters and the mounting fear and unease that they have. The puppets, and also apparently there was sound boxes hidden around all of the set, and so the director would just play the sounds and the actors would be genuinely terrified because This sounds very disgusting and terrifying. Was this movie perfect? No. Was it fun and thrilling, and did it get my heart beating a few times? Yes. It was a little bit too fast-paced, like so many things happened, especially in that 30-minute time period, but also there was never a moment of boredom where I was sitting there going like, oh my god, I just wish they would hurry up and get to the next set piece. There were wonderful little Easter eggs for long-term die-hard fans of Alien, from how there are emergency phones in the background of certain scenes, which is from the video game Alien Isolation, and each time those scenes, anytime those phones are spotted, that usually means something bad's gonna happen. The practical effects were just a wonderful breath of fresh air. It was so nice to see the aliens actually looking like they were part of the scene, like they were there, like they were next to the actors, and that they made sense next to the actors. It was such a nice change of pace, and it really helped make the fear and the unease of the ship, of every scene, even more realistic and profound. The Offspring's design was disgusting and interesting, and apparently it was inspired by a letter that the original Alien writer Don O'Bannon sent to the original designer and legendary artist H.R. Geiger, and it stated, the alien third mature phase. The alien grows to man size, terribly dangerous. The creature should be a profound abomination. An oversized, deformed baby should be loathsome. Which he was. And fun fact, he was played by real life basketball player. I cannot say his name, but this is him. So good job, man. You were really creepy and really freaked me out. Thank you. But for all of my praises, I do have some critique. For how entertaining the film is, it really did lack a certain very vital aspect, which was stakes. It was overwhelmingly obvious that Rain was not just the main character, but that she was going to survive. The film opens up with her all alone in the sunlight, enjoying the breeze. She's all alone. It was so obvious. I hate to compare a film like Alien 1979 to this because, one, it's unfair to compare films when they are two drastically different things, and Alien is an almost perfect sci-fi movie, sci-fi horror film, but just because I find it unfair to compare them, and they're never going to be exactly the same, we're never going to remake the full magic from the original Alien, you can still learn things from the original Alien. And one of the lessons is that how Alien 1979 brought tension to the film. Despite Ripley being iconic now, when the film was first released, no one knew her, no one knew who she was. The film doesn't even open with her. It opens with an entirely different character waking up from cryostasis. We don't even get a camera shot of her speaking until 20 minutes into the film. She starts to gain more screen time around 40 minutes into the film, but there's always another character in front of her, and she is in the background. After an hour, she starts to become more full screen into the camera, and the camera starts to have actual close-ups of her. And when there's only 20 minutes left of the film, that is when she is the final character, and she is all alone in the camera. The camera's just focused on her, the story's just focused on her. And by that point, we've seen every other central character fighting for their lives and dying, and so the stakes are so high for her because we have no idea what's going to happen, but because we've been seeing smidges of her, we're attached to her and bonded to her, and with each and every loss we've had more time to spend with her, and so now we actually care about her right when it's most important. Rain is the first character we see. As I mentioned before, we open up with her dreaming of being in the sunlight, and she's all alone. We spend the most time with her. We don't spend any one-on-one time with the other friends who are in the trailer that she goes to see. We don't see them, we don't get introduced to them, we don't see them unless she is there. And we start to even notice throughout the film when they will die, because if Rain is with them one-on-one for a long period of time, they are probably going to die. There's no tension and no anticipation. The events are still fun. You're still gripping the edge of your seat, but more so because you don't really know what's coming next, like what the xenomorph is going to do, but you're not really afraid of who's going to die, when they're going to die, and you're not afraid of who's going to be the last one surviving. It would have been super cool if we opened up with Rain and then it turns out that Kay survives, or even Navarro, or anyone else but her. But the fact that she is the main character through the whole film, film, that's where the stakes and the tension from the very first Alien just can't be replicated in this film, because it brought the horror of like just the very environment, but didn't bring the actual character horror that we felt from the very first film. Another critique is Rook. In a film where practical effects are abundant, Rook's CGI face is so glaringly obvious. Every time he was on screen, it took me out of the moment. I understand behind the scenes wise, they got approval from the actor's real life family, because unfortunately he has passed. They got approval from his family in order to use his likeness in this film, and they wanted to use his likeness in this film as a callback to the original Alien, but the CGI just wasn't on par with all of the practical effects that were happening, and it just was I got a dog recently, and I forgot how attached German Shepherds get, and he keeps scaring the daylights out of me. So he is now in this room. So if you hear sniffing or breathing, that's my dog. Anyways, continuing on. But yeah, to wrap up Rook's critique, the CGI just wasn't strong enough in a film where practical effects were being used everywhere. And I don't think it was the best idea. Anyways, I think I've rambled enough. I really did enjoy this film. I think it's a fun installment into the Alien franchise, and I like that it brought the element of horror back to a franchise that started to just focus on action-packed adventures. Let me know if you've seen this film, what you thought. Do you agree with what I said? Do you have different opinions? I've heard some conflicting feelings on this film from especially like the hardcore Alien fans, and I'm not a super hardcore Alien fan. Again, I've only ever seen Alien 1979, but I've read up a little bit on the lore and the world and everything. So again, let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, and if you want to see more content like this, please subscribe. Until next time, bye!